Where's Frank? Say hi, Frank.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
What's up?
I don't know. What's up with you?
Another day in paradise.
Yeah. Oh, what happened to our noon advertised interview?
I had to go do something else.
I won't bother asking you what that is because you probably won't tell me.
There was a trail ride of horse people doing a Black Lives Matter trail ride over by the Golden Gate Bridge. So I went to check it out.
Nice. Did you go to participate and cheer them on, or you went to go like knock them in the head?
I don't have a horse. So I didn't participate.
So how's pandemic life for you?
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I kind of like it. No professional sports, that's a win. No parades, really, that's a win. Impending civil war, I'm fucking stoked. I'm ready. Go out there and shoot some cops in the fucking head. Let's go.
Oh man.
Fuck a bunch of toy collecting. It's time to go kill people.
Wow.
Hey man. Hey man. You know, the Jews said it could never happen, right? What happened? It's happening here. It's happening here. It's happening here.
Is it?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Secret police, dude. Kidnapping people off the streets.
Okay. Yes.
Shooting people in the fucking face for no reason.
Yes. That is in the context of a protest. They're not coming to people's door. But yeah, it's terrible.
That's next. That's gonna be next.
Yeah. Well,
I hope you're armed.
We'll see how that goes. This interview has been on for 2 minutes and it got really dark really fast.
It's dark times, bro. Everybody should be out to supporting the cause and should be like, you know, doing their best to get Trump out of office until they can make things right again.
Yeah, but didn't you vote for George Bush?
That was 20 years ago.
But that was post-Patriot Act. Didn't you still vote for him?
Patriot Act afterwards. I'm just saying, times are tough, man. You gotta get out and support the cause.
All right.
But now let's talk about toys.
I'm gonna go cry under the table here. Oh man. So I actually, yeah, there is like a level of guilt because there's so many people suffering during the pandemic, and so many things going wrong. And then, you know, for some people it's getting better. You know, I mean, we were talking about like online sales for artists, and you know, we set up the booth here and set up the online store, which I never thought I would have to do. And
is that your warehouse?
Yeah, we set up the booth here in the warehouse.
It's much nicer than I had envisioned it.
Thank you.
I thought it would be like an open beam structure like the last place you had.
Oh, well, these are the offices. So if you look over there, out there, yes, there's the open beam outside the glass doors. Like
huge, man. Congrats.
Yeah, there's 4,000 square feet there. It's actually 10,000 square feet, but it's subdivided, and I have half of it rented. But then we're actually here in the offices where the booth is. If you click on the other view, you can see other views there. Never mind, don't do that. Yeah, I mean, we sold more in one day than we sell in all of Comic-Con. Like our Wednesday.
That's because, you know, think about it. People aren't spending like $5,000 to go to San Diego. So while they're stuck at home, probably the money they would have spent on airfare and hotels and logistics, they're able to.
It's true. I've told
their collection, right?
I agree. I mean, I've told that to people who say like, "Oh, I didn't get to go to San Diego, and the exclusive there was $50, and it's $200 on eBay now." And I'm like, I mean, that $200 is cheaper.
I kind of don't miss it a whole lot. I mean, yeah. I always like the cons, but to be honest with you, they're super exhausting and they're expensive. And I don't know. I don't feel bad about it.
Well, we made the extremely bad decision of keeping con hours. So we're on our 5th day here on hour, I don't know, 36 or 37 of being here live inside the booth. It's worked out nicely. It's fun. The interaction with the people who are watching online in the chat and the questions, and they have questions about toys, and I can, show it to them and be like this, and then they go to the store and buy it. And, a lot of fun interviews with artists, who have all shown up on time.
Except for me.
So, you
honestly, I forgot I'm a bad person.
It's okay. Even though I sent you a text at 10 o'clock this morning, but that's okay. Let's not talk about that. So you were actually the one in the
accelerated decrepitude.
Yeah. You're actually the one early on in the Kidrobot message boards that I believe saw the Sucklord's work and pointed it out to me.
It could be. Maybe.
I think you found. I think you
15 years ago or something.
2004, 2005, I think. And so you're the one that like pointed it out and made that reference, and then I don't know if you specifically said like you should contact this guy, but you posted and you said, everyone, this is rad, look at this. And that was the Gay Empire action figure. And so in a way, I have you to thank for all of this.
Yes, I still am the creative director of Kidrobot. Well, the guys are answering. Should I not answer the questions as they pop up?
You can if you want.
I thought that was the whole point.
You can, or you can answer my questions, or
you can just talk about you the whole time, which is awesome.
So I'm just, I'm thanking you because you did point that out to me, and but you also did another great thing for me early on, as we had a few business dealings, and you were the one that vouched for me to everybody, because everyone would call you and ask you, hey, what's up with this Dove guy? And all you said to them, and I just heard it repeated over and over again, you said, Dove's cool, he pays.
Yes, I've been operating as an independent creative for almost 40 years now, and you'd be surprised how many people talk a great game and all this stuff, and then they never get paid. And so it's like creative people need to get paid so they can keep being creative. And it's an important factor, and you're very honorable. You've been beyond honorable in all of your business dealings. And as many people in the toy genre will attest, that's a rare trait.
And what I found it fascinating is that I always tell people that I wasn't necessarily good at selling anything, or didn't have any specific talent in that area, but all I did was do what I was supposed to do, and then people thought I was a superstar. Like, I answered the phone, I answered emails, I did what I said I was going to do, and I paid people, and then people are like, dude, Dove's amazing. And it's like, that should be what
because you're not in it for ego gratification, right? So a lot of people get into the creative business for reasons that are weird to me. I think sometimes. And you did the amazing thing that you brought in like normal business practice to a creative scenario, and sometimes that's all it takes, man. Is to act like a person.
Wow.
So
it's kind of what I tell my 6-year-old. OMFG, Dove is a decent person, indeed. So when you saw the Sucklord's first piece, when you saw that Gay Empire piece, what did it mean to you? Like, what was it about that piece, that said that you were an asshole for buying it on the back? And
well, it kind of brings, it mirrors all the stuff I find interesting in art, and is part of my deal. Number one, it's he's a collage artist primarily. That's how I started out. I have a deep appreciation of collage. I think collage is really interesting because it's a very direct way to take current social context or past social context, right, that people are used to seeing, rearranging it in a new way that conveys like a different message that's a reflection on the original messaging. So it's like good collage is more than just cut and paste, oh, it looks cool. Good collage can make like incredibly deep connections incredibly quickly. And like a good collage could be the equivalent of a short story or a novel, right? And that's what I liked about Sucklord stuff, was that by a very simple, obvious move, right? You know, after the fact, well, my kid could do that. Well, your kid didn't, right? So it's like, right, he can tell a really complex story. He can make a really, really deep and complicated social statement on different levels,
Mhm.
all in a little piece that's like this big. That's like a really cool skill. It's a really interesting. So he actually sort of operating on like all these multiple levels, and that's what I thought made it really interesting. You know, it has a goofy appeal, it has an esoteric appeal, it has a sort of aggressive appeal sometimes, right? His shit's always funny. At the same time, it's making like these really weird, deep statements about things. And so
Mhm.
I think that that is why I thought his work was really, really interesting. And also, he's just this weirdo, you know, like just decided one day to sit down and do this, right? So that's kind of cool too. Like he wasn't following anybody else, right? He
Mhm.
wasn't like, oh, I'm going to make like a Michael Loud figure, or I'm going to do spray cans, or I'm going to like, you
But
know,
he
he
was
just went off and did his own weird fucking thing. It's awesome.
but he was in a way. He claims that this was an answer to, Kid Robot was in its infancy at the time, and that he presented ideas to Kid Robot to make vinyl toys, and he talked to the people at Kenner or Hasbro who he was working for at the time, at cons, and no one would make his toy.
Well, because they
And
didn't understand the energy. They just looked at it and go, oh, this is kind of like dumb shit. He's just, it's a pink Boba Fett with the, you know, they didn't, I don't think they appreciated, even if it was unconsciously done,
Mhm.
the intellectual content of the work. And
um,
that's what it is. It's like Morgan's work is not beautiful to look at as a visual piece. Like when he has really successful pieces, he's conveying an idea, right? A story, all encapsulated in there. So that's like sometimes that's not a viable commercial product, right?
right.
Because you know you have to connect that piece with a customer or a collector that understands it and feels it, and you know there's not going to be like 20 million of those people,
Right. Um, but
which is what
like,
they're looking for. They want a singing turd toothbrush that has the widest possible appeal.
so what is that like for you, being an artist, but also, you're the creative director at Kid Robot. Is there a CEO, a new CEO yet?
I'm like the chief creative officer, so I kind of basically
So,
function as the CEO.
so, but they haven't hired a new one, correct?
No, I mean when
No. So
after
they're
Bob left, that was it. I mean,
okay. So basically, you're running the show,
yes.
right? So, and you have an understanding of like what's marketable and what's not. I've thrown some ideas your way, and like you're like, no. Um, it, so how does that work? Like you recognize someone like the Sucklord, like that is not marketable. You understand what the
It's really
companies are look.
complicated. So it gets really complicated, and it breaks my heart because I see people grousing on message boards and stuff. When we do the licensed goods, it's really complex and expensive to bring a consistent series of items to market, right? So when I make a decision, and if you actually were to pile it all up, we've probably done as many cool art toys as at any time in the company's history. Some of them I think more better. I think it's more equitable because there's uh, the type of art because we're trying to widen our scope of artists as much as possible. Um, but at the same time, the reality is like you sell 1,000 pieces of an art toy, that's like a big success, right?
Mhm.
Okay, that doesn't even pay the bills for like 2 days for a company
Right.
like Kidrobot. So I have to go out and sell, you know, millions of dollars worth of Hello Kitty toys to pay the bills.
Mhm.
So us selling all the Hello Kitty stuff and all the stuff that people denigrate, oh, it's a license or whatever. What it really boils down to is that foots the bill for the weird art stuff. And over time, these licensors that used to be pretty rigid, you see it in the market now, they're getting looser and looser, and they're like doing art toys, right? So we got to do a really great Candy Bolton Hello Kitty toy. It's all about Candy Bolton, not really about Hello Kitty. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
so there's lots of stuff like that starting to happen, which I think is a sweet spot. Also, there's cycles, right? Like, we'd be making pure art toys all day long if people would buy them.
Right.
But we go to market every week with new, the way we work it now is we go out with the new pieces as concepts or finished sculpts, and we take orders. And if there's enough orders taken, then we can make the piece, right? And there are many, many, many art toys that we've paid artists for, that we've sculpted, we've concepted, that we've taken out and offered to the customers, and they didn't buy them. So we couldn't afford to make them, because you can't like spend millions of dollars to have stuff sitting in a warehouse somewhere for years on end. Nobody can operate that way.
So what is this
That's
like?
the unfortunate thing. So if there was a huge demand for art toys, well, we'd be making more art toys. Like, there is some stuff, some art toys sell, some don't, some price points sell, some don't. So we have to do our best guesstimate, working with everybody, to bring whatever we can to market in the form of pure art toys. But what pays the bills all day long is selling plush to Walmart, selling plush to Best Buy. Okay, and some of that stuff actually is pretty cool, right? So, the goal is, when it's a licensed product, to do whatever we can to make it interesting. And a lot of times, it's the licensors themselves that put limits on things. So when people see something really crazy coming out of Singapore, or Taiwan, that's like, it's a really crazy Mickey Mouse or Snow White, those aren't like licensed. Those are bootlegs. Those are done without permission. So since Kidrobot is a real company operating in the United States, and we have lots of licenses and we have a position in the industry, I know this is boring, we can't do that. I can't go off and make like insane bootleg. I'd love to. That's what I would do all day long. That's what I do personally, right? But as a company, Kidrobot's too big, right? So if we got busted for doing some wacky bootleg that we sold 200 pieces of, okay, then, dozens of people would lose their job.
Right.
So it's not worth it. So I think there's room for, go to a Mighty Jack's or to whoever, these cool new Asian, creators. You can get the really psycho stuff from them. Kidrobot, everything we put out has to be legitimate. And like I say, we've offered lots of really crazy art toys to the public by all these artists that you guys love. Nobody was interested in buying them.
Right.
So after 5 of those things going down the tube, that's a couple $100,000 gone. Somebody owns Kidrobot. They're like, "What are you doing? You can't. We're not here to just lose money, right?" So it has to be a balance. So and as far as dunny collectors, I don't know what y'all complaining about. In the last 5 years, we've released a couple of 100 designs. We have like maxed out all these new artists from all over the world, different formats, different materials, magnetic ones. The last 5 years for the dunnies are better than the old dunnies. And, fight me, like it says in the meme, like way better. It's just that like people fixate on something from the past that is glorified in their brain. They're not keeping track with what's going on now. So I don't pay attention to the negative Nellies, because the proof is in the pudding. Even in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, the company's doing better all the time. I keep hiring more creative people. Creative team keeps growing. Something's going on that's positive. If something's not to your personal taste, well, unfortunately, that's how it works.
Well, no one here is complaining, but how is that for you personally, though? Like,
what do you mean?
I mean, you're an artist, and now you have your kind of like, is that creatively fulfilling in the same way?
It's not yeah, sure. I mean, that's fascinating. I love doing it. It creates a lot of opportunities. And, it's not like I don't do my own stuff too. I make my own toys in Japan and stuff, and they're as weird as I want them to be. I do my 2D illustration work. I do prints. I do, so I don't feel creatively stifled. I mean, it would be nice to have the fantasy and just rage and make crazy art toys full time, but who's going to give me $10 million to lose in the next 5 years? Nobody. Right?
So
I mean, we've produced toys together. You know how it works.
Sure.
It's really difficult. It's really expensive. it's a long-term investment, and you can't just do one toy at a time. You've got to plan for 5, 10, 20, it's more than, you might believe, And what I say to everybody that is negative about this situation, I'm like, dude, do it better. I'll buy your toys. You go out there and do it right, and I'll love your shit and I'll buy it all day long. Just go do it. Find out about it.
So let's talk about like appropriation
Mm.
and transformative art. And like you said, that in your work and throughout your career, you've been borrowing from pop culture, and a lot of what we're selling
100%,
here.
yeah. I don't have an
know,
interior vision.
Can you talk about that and like how, I don't know, I think there's a lot of artists out there who,
Well, do you want me to be all like real and art speak about it, or do you want me just
I don't know,
how deep do you want to go? Because it's like endless. It's an endless conversation.
you could give me the 5-minute version.
Okay, so I started doing art, like copying stuff when I was a little kid, and then I became a creative adult in the punk rock scene in the early '80s. Okay, and it was really important in that group of people. And I had the good luck to be in Austin, and there was a group of probably 1,000 people involved in the scene I was in. Like, it's a really large amount of people: artists, musicians, filmmakers, writers, performers of all stripes. The one thing that was really important in that scene was you were expected to contribute. You couldn't just be a consumer. It was not that. It was encouraged for you to contribute creatively, okay, to whatever, okay, you want to do. So I have no musical talent, so I couldn't be in a band, right? But what I could do was sort of draw these crappy little cartoons and then like, I got really obsessed with doing like the Xerox collage thing, right? Because it was really punk rock, and I kind of ended up being kind of good at it. So that's the entire context of my work. My work does not come from I admired some artist, or I went to art school, or I wanted to be part of a movement or whatever. My work grew organically from the early punk rock scene. So my values and my approach are skewed. But what's interesting about that is that like there was a lot of energy, right? And there was ability to, I know a lot of artists that are really, really great, but like nobody wants their stuff. And some of them are really good. And so I just had this really good luck to find a context, right, where it was appreciated immediately on various levels. I don't even know where I'm going with this. So that's how I got started. So everything I've done subsequently has been based on that model, right? Even now, if I make something that now I can draw and I can paint and I can do all these different things. But, whatever, my latest toy, if you really look at my stuff, like some of them are original characters. Like the Labbit is an original character, but it's still based on something else that already existed as far as an idea, right? So I don't claim to be a great artist with a capital A and like showing you some interior vision. I like to play games with what I see around me and with make bad jokes and rearrange things and all that kind of stuff. And psychologically, I don't know, gives me a sense of who knows. But so that's the core of my work. And that's what I do like about the toy genre, because so much of it is that for whatever reason. So I don't know if that addresses your question exactly, but that's kind of like where I come from, right? Is that like it's okay to rip shit off. I mean, I'm not going to use the nice word for it. It's okay to copy people's stuff and appropriate stuff, but you've got to do something really interesting with it. You've got to do something with it that makes it original. You have to take something and you have to spin it around somehow and stick it next to something else that might not be yours either. Because then, just like with why I like Sucklore stuff, you're selling an idea. And the idea is your commentary on a social situation or the human condition as you see it. Does that make sense? And sometimes the stuff just looks cool. It's funny, right?
So did anyone ever come after you, like when you were
early? I would get cease and desist, and then I would talk to them, and eventually, like in all the cases, they eventually would give me a license to do it.
Like when you had,
in the case of one company, I got a cease and desist back in the early '90s, and then 15 years later, they wanted me to do a piece for them. So all I did was use the old piece that they tried to sue me for, and they loved it.
Was that the Kiss Hello Kitty piece?
Maybe. So the important thing with that is like, if you get a cease and desist, you know, the thing is, like Mike Diana learned a hard lesson. I mean, there's people that the guy, you know, Bobby London with the Air Pirates, those guys learned a hard lesson. If you, if City Hall comes a knocking, you need to talk to them. You can't fight them. You can always make a deal, or you can just cease and desist and go do something else. You know, it's not a hill to die on, because lives have been ruined because of that thing. So like, you know, I'm not a super purist, like I'm going to die for my art or whatever. Like it's not, you know, it's not that integral to my self-worth or self-survival or whatever. So, you know, if I would get a cease and desist, I would do it and I would contact them. And like in one case with Hanna-Barbera in the 90s, I made friends with the guy running the company. They gave me a license to do whatever I want. I still have they sent me all their like character books and stuff, you know.
Yeah, didn't you do Hanna-Barbera characters like shooting up heroin or something?
Yeah, all kinds of crazy shit. And like the guy running the show, like loved it. He's dead now, but he was like an art collector guy that somehow ended up running the thing for a while.
I think something has changed though
it's changed now, because people want to sell their products to like the millennial internet crowd, and they realize that like satire and self-deprecation is a really viable marketing tool.
Sure.
And it helps them sell their products. If it wasn't helping them sell their products, they would be a lot more aggressive like they used to be.
But I think the courts have also ruled, you know, laws about parody and have also changed over the past, you know, 20, 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not really representing, you know, some companies will still come and like just be brutal, you know, whatever. What's her face with the Harry Potter franchise? You know, you can't even say the words Harry Potter without someone knocking on the door. Oh, there they are. You know, so.
Right. So I think for the artists today working in the field, I think most of them are entirely left alone. But I think on the flip side of it is if someone does say something, I think it's actually harder to communicate with those companies today than it was.
It could be. It very well could be.
I don't think many people I know could just, you know, if they got a cease and desist, just get on the phone with, you know, the head of Hanna-Barbera and like hit it off and then get a license.
Could be. I mean, times are different. There used to be a lot less of us back then. Is the only way I can put it. Like, you know, the first 10 years of my supposed career, as far as sort of like the weirdo, whatever we are, the underground pop indie artists, there might have been a couple of dozen people that were operating nationally, any kind of level of exposure. Since the internet blew everything apart, there's tens of thousands of viable artists operating on that level. You know what I'm saying? Maybe more, you know, if you go on like the whatever deviant art forums and stuff, and a lot of them are good, right? And they're all over the place. So the thing is that like, yeah, I think it is harder now because, you know, the competition and the noise factor is escalated exponentially over the years because of the internet. And it's also, you know, increasingly harder to come up with stuff that somebody hasn't already done.
Sure.
So, you know, before you do a piece now, you got to be really, I mean, and you used to kind of know, right? But like you can't know anymore. So you have to do a lot of looking to make sure that you're not like stepping on somebody's toes or whatever, you know? Creatively.
So.
Is this interesting at all?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I mean, I'm sure people are, if they're not interested, they're just tuning out. So they're going to go mow the lawn while we're on our chat. So I don't know. I'm enjoying it. Are you enjoying it?
Well, you know me, dude. I'll talk forever.
So
do you want me to answer some of these questions people were sending, or?
You can. Someone wanted to know what you thought of the,
okay, hold on.
Superplastic stuff.
Let's see. Where's my shit start? Stickers.
Where's the stuff about me?
I'm still the chief creative officer at Kidrobot. Yes, Dub is a decent person. We are not hiring currently, but give it a couple of months because we've been like adding people in Los Angeles actually. Bradley is correct. Superplastic. Well,
Uh-oh, here we go.
no, I got nothing against it. Paul did his thing. He went out and got some money from somebody, and they're trying a new approach. They're trying to sort of do this, digital avatar thing that is going to be a spokesmodel and trying to get like money from corporations kind of thing, right? Influencer, digital influencer, I guess is the deal.
Just for the people who don't know, they're talking
Little
about
too
Paul,
late.
that
Little too
Paul
late.
is, hold on one second, that Paul is the former CEO of Kidrobot.
Right. So, couple things. They sort of like decided to spend a lot of money on the influencer model a little too late, a little late in the game, number one. Number two is, in the long term, I don't think it's going to pan out because it's everything I've seen, and I'm talking about the shit that's on the the video stuff they're doing with the not the toys or whatever. I'm talking about the real thing is not the toys. The real thing is they're trying to build this business with this digital influencer avatar creature, right? Or creatures. The problem for it with me is that it's very hostile. Okay. So the time for hostility is like far over, especially now with what's going on societally. I think more and more the large corporations are trying to attract with this model are going to be looking for positivity, healing, hope, sense of a bright future. I think the time for ultra violence and mockery and everything evil and like lots of blood and chopping things up with axes, even though they've got the sponsorship from the axe company. I think that not only is that played, but I think like their brand is giving off a really hostile, even I would say misogynistic vibe because there's no female characters involved. And I don't know if they're supposed to be like pansexual or what, but it just comes off as like really dark and really negative. And I think that was 10 years ago. It's not next year or the year after. The quality of the work's amazing. The character design's interesting. The quality of the renderings is beautiful. I just think that like the whole business model is dated, and I think the fact that it's so negative and so dark, it will. I think when they run out of investment money, it's going to be gone. Now, as far as the toys, decent platform, nothing new in the world. Okay. They've got a decent roster of artists. I like the big ones, look pretty cool. No business can succeed on a Kickstarter model. So at some point they'll have to become a real business with like distribution and like all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I guess they can Kickstarter time and time again, but that's no way to actually build any kind of equity in a brand whatsoever. So I think what they're doing is they're trying to sort of blow this up. We're like, look, we've got online content and we've got this IP, and they're going to try to sell it to a larger entertainment company at some point. But I think that the negativity involved in what I'm seeing is going to hold it back. So that's just like an objective analysis of what I'm seeing. I know they try to stir up dissension right early on, right? Make fun of me, make fun of Kidrobot, whatever. I don't care, dude. Like whatever. Make fun of me all day long. I'm really happy with my life and what I'm doing. So that's what I have to say about Superplastic. If you like it, buy it. If you don't. It's your choice. You're the final arbiter. You, the consumer, the fan, the collector, that person in the little camera. You're the final arbiter.
So where do you think all of this is headed? People were asking me this over the weekend.
It's not headed anywhere. We're cars headed. Where's anything headed? It's like it's become like a successful genre. It's primarily an entertainment product. People get into it for all the reasons they've gotten. It's been 20 years now. I've been making toys for more than 20 years. I've been making toys for 23 years now. Okay. I'm doing great. A lot of people I know are doing great because it's not limited to just the toys. You can then branch out and like do other things around the toys for your career. I think it's a permanent product in the marketplace. I've always said it was a new form of art. Populist sculpture never existed before unless you were buying a copy or a replica of a famous statue. There was like tchotchke sculpture available, and there was like real stuff available for rich people. There was nothing for the general population. Well, now there is. I think that's like a primary appeal of this stuff. has some of it has an aftermarket value. So people are buying it for all the same reasons. They like the way it looks. They want to be associated with the lifestyle that it associates itself with, right? They become collectors, and collectors have their own sets of needs, right? Whatever they're driven by. Some people are going to like go into it for the flipper component. They're going to try to capitalize on it. Some people are going to become designers and creators. Some people are going to be manufacturers. I do think that it's a permanent market. I think that if you include Funko, okay, which I know a lot of people aren't going to like, but it's a really big market, okay, and also Pop Mart in China just is up in the billions of sales in China with the Moly figures and stuff. So I think it's a successful genre of stuff. I think that it suits a variety of needs for a variety of people. And I think it's become a valid creative art form that should be right up there with, drawing and painting and all the rest of that stuff. I think sort of like popular sculpture, 3D design that's character-based is its own thing. I think there's a lot of support for it in mainstream media because they make the CGI movies and they make the high-end animated movies, so I think stuff like Pixar helped it a lot, okay? Just in the mind of the world, right? So I think it's here to stay. Is someone going to show up? I mean, who's done really well in the last year? Maybe Quix is doing great right now. Before that it was Ashley Wood, right? Cause, he made his transition. He's now a fine artist, right? But he's still doing commerce. He's still making the unlimited editions to make, Skrilla. So I think it is what it is. I don't think that it's going anywhere. I don't think it's going to go away. I don't think it's going to take over the world. It's going to be like skateboarding or streetwear or, making music. It's a creative form that provides consumer goods, both for collectors and the mainstream. That's a permanent creative thing that's going to be here for a while. Unless there's some kind of huge war or something with China, and then everyone will be cut off from manufacturing and it'll disappear overnight.
So I know that you've gone through a lot of phases since I've known you, a lot of different things that you've collected over the years. What excites you now? What are you collecting now?
Vintage power tools.
I've had the luxury of seeing some of those on Instagram.
Hey man, they're amazing. You get mixed up with them and they look really cool. And you can take them apart and restore them and put them back together. So instead of trying to do a car or something, I just I'll do this saw, and I kind of get that thing out of my system. I'm not really collecting. I literally have 40,000 toys, most of them in storage. I don't need to collect toys anymore.
I know how that is. So I'm actually Heritage I'm doing an exclusive auction with Heritage in December.
What are you going to sell?
It's called the DKE archive auction.
But what are you selling out of your collection? All of it, or just some stuff?
No, I'm thinning it out, and from the distribution days, I have 2 of everything I ever sold for a dozen years.
Genius.
So I'm trying to. I have a lot of your stuff. There was a point in my life where I wanted to have every Frank Kozik toy ever made. But now
so to answer Phil Page's question, Jizz Cannon.
I don't even know what that means. Yeah. So yeah, it should be exciting because Heritage has done something with Cause Toys recently that they have been able to convert their high-end art collectors.
I got some of those stashed.
Into
hey man, you want a mint?
Thank you. The best thing about this booth is I don't have to I can have garlic shrimp for lunch, and I don't have to worry about my breath talking to people.
You still need to bathe though. Don't forget. It's easy to forget now.
Wow. Well, it's been fun. I really appreciate your time. I know everyone else here paying attention to you.
Anybody else have a question?
Any more questions? Well, in the start of this interview, I wasn't sure I was going to go with you on this one, but it's proven to be a stellar interview. Oh, really, Bradley? So who did you think was not going to work out, me or Frank?
Well,
Never mind.
it's
Don't
me.
answer that. So yeah, I'm really hoping that, and this is, I don't expect this, but I hope that Heritage could, convert some of those collectors into just, buying Kozik toys and buying other designer toys other than Cause, because I only have one Cause toy. I have a Cause Vader that I paid $400 for, and they sell on Heritage for somewhere between $8,000 and $16,000 now.
Right.
And it's like, I look at that
I need to
Cause.
talk to him about my shit that I've got stashed, because I got a bunch of it still. What was I going to say? I don't know, man. Show them like the vinyl busts, the bronzes, the big arm. Size matters, right? Big army now. It's got to be big. The bigger stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it. So hopefully, I still have because all the stuff that we produce together, I still need to keep at least one of each of those. But if I have a second set, it's like, boom, it's gonna go. And I'm really hoping that. Because I know you and I know a dozen other people with archives full of stuff over the past 20 years. And if some of those buyers, I just think some of it is so special. And I look at the Mecha Banana that you did, and I just think this should be in a museum. And maybe you don't feel that way, but there's just so many pieces like that kind of transcend toys and just, I don't know how to describe it.
Well, one could always hope. So, okay, so thank you, Mr. Big D, and for Super Secret Fun Club. Well, what it just boils down to is I have no advice how to do that other than just do it and 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 show it and show it and show it, and eventually if it's good and if you like it, chances are somebody else will like it too, and then they'll want to have it, and then you're on a roll. Now if you're already working, I don't know who you are, but if you're already working and being able to place chances are much higher than someone who's starting from scratch. But I mean, there's no secret to, you can't go to school to get ideas. You can go to school you can learn technique, okay, and you can learn theory, but the spark, it's got to come from yourself. No one can teach you that. You either got it or you don't.
Very cool. All right, dude. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks, everybody.
I really appreciate
Stay safe. Wear your mask.
Here appreciates it. And
stay safe. Wear your mask.
I think we got one more. It says, Frank, what do you think about the lack of critique and dialogue around indie toys? Seems like there was a time when collectors were more educated. We'll just make this our last question.
Okay, so couple things. The rise of social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter and stuff destroyed internet forums. And internet forums were a really luxuriant sort of online resource where, people that were interested in subjects could spend with no distractions, right? Could just sort of really get in depth. And I mean, I used to be on poster forums. There were great poster forums back in the day. Amazing, really long-term things, because it was basically the equivalent of sitting in a room talking to somebody. Stuff like Facebook, there's just too much coming in. There's too many visuals, right? So I think that I think a lot of dialogue is lost because of the speeding up of the media process online and the interaction online, right? I think the death of the forums was really deep. I think that also, there was probably an initial wave of adult collectors that were buying it for odd and interesting reasons that have since cycled out. And then, we've gone through a couple of waves of neophyte collectors or, flipper collectors. It's hard to weed out. And oftentimes what I've seen is the bad drives out the good sometimes. And then sometimes, people just get burnt out on something. So I think that there's still, and as far as criticism, I had a bone to pick with that too, because via personal experience, you know, there was never anybody vetted to be a professional toy critic. Okay. I would get, you know, you would see collectors that put on the critic role, and they naturally have personal predilections to things that would taint their view. Okay. And there's no back history to you know, if you're a film critic or a literary critic, there's a, you know, a long and rich history of that sort of criticism, and the good ones know about the past, and there's context to draw from. And the toy scene is a brand new thing. What do you say? I like it. I don't like it. It's cool as a duck, you know. There was one guy that I really hated. I guess he was a frustrated sculptor. He was a good sculptor. He just fucking hated everything, right? But then again, I was like, okay, like, where's your shit? Like, I don't think that you should criticize unless either you know, are like studied it for real, like literary critics do, right? Or you yourself are a creator that's had success and failure in the open market. So it's a difficult question. I think, though, what is good about the toys is that, like, it's hard now, but when you attend the conventions, I think one thing that's really good about the conventions is that occasionally you will meet somebody that wants to talk about these things on the same level that you do, and then you form a friendship, and that revolves around what is, in the eyes of the world, a very arcane thing, right? And I think that's like a great value to people. So I wouldn't give up total hope. I just think that it's an effect of, like, the media, the space that takes place in these days, which is the internet, the forumless internet. And I think that it hasn't, in 100 years, it might be more interesting if anybody bothers to write it all down and remember it all, which I don't see happening. So there's already, like, a lot of misinformation about stuff from just 10 or 15 years ago. What are you going to do?
Indeed. All right. Thank you, Frank. I'll let you get on with your day. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Really appreciate the time. We'll talk to you soon.